So I get to a point where I've wrung all the stress out of my body.
Yeah.
And when I do that, then other stuff doesn't seem like it's a big deal. It really isn't. Because it's like the physical discomfort.
Yeah. You reset your hierarchy of needs.
Yes.
It's like I wrote a joke with Blake Griffin, the basketball player, one time where it was like they're interviewing guys after they've just they're trying to get oxygen to their brain.
Right.
Like it's a bad time to do an interview.
Well, I was doing interviews with people after they got knocked unconscious. And
do you feel, are you kind of like, do you not like it?
It's not a good time to interview people. They make mistakes because, like, you just had your brain shut off. Like, so maybe they think they want to fight, or maybe they think something. They don't know what the fuck just happened. And there's varying degrees of that. Like, you can pretend, oh, he knows, he's playing dumb. But you have zero idea what's going on in a person's brain unless you are them and you have been knocked out.
Do they have a policy of like not doing that anymore, or are you still doing it? Well, I said I won't
do it, and then I fucked up and did it with Daniel Cormier. But I was so confused in that fight because Daniel's a good friend. I love him to death. And John Jones had just knocked him out. And I was in this state.
Is this recent or no?
No, this was a few years back.
Yeah.
I haven't done any like knockouts interviews since, but I think I did a couple of TKOs, and I think it's a judgment call. Like there's sometimes when the guy's getting fucked up, but it's really like he's just beaten, he's getting his legs kicked and punched, and the referee comes and stops the fight, but he's okay. Like he just got fucked up. He's not out cold. But sometimes guys get knocked out cold, and when they get knocked out cold, like you don't really know because they went away.
Yeah.
And then they come back.
Yeah.
And
they're in an arena for some reason. Yeah.
Some guys are fine and they handle it with grace and dignity. And, they're amazing at it. And that's also depending upon that knockout versus a different knockout. Like, what happened to you that day? Like, how bad did you get beat up before you got knocked out? Was it just one punch? Was it a kick to the head? Is a kick to the head worse than a punch to the head? Even though both knock you out, the force of a kick is way higher. So you don't really know. You don't really know until you're talking to them, and I don't think you really will ever know because a lot of people can talk on autopilot, and then they'll tell you, like, they go back.
I don't remember talking to you.
Yeah, they go back to the dressing room. They have no idea they fought, and then they're in the hospital room afterwards. They don't know what happened, and they lose like hours of the night. It's really common.
Yeah.
So to ask them to.
But I think you're smart. To get back to the original thing, you're smart to reset your hierarchy.
Yes.
Where you're fucking exhausted and you want to just breathe and get your body back to like and you still have all that like exercise drain / tingle.
There's that too. There's like you exhaust yourself, which I think is very good for you.
My brother Kevin
relieves you of the stress.
Used to jog every day to run the Brennan out of him. Like, we got bad shit in us. I have to run it out of me.
That's hilarious.
It's fucking very funny. And but that's a smart approach.
There's two things going on. There's the physical thing where you're wringing out the stress, which I think is very real. And it makes you feel better and it's easier to get by. But then there's also the psychological thing, because to work out really hard is very difficult to do. And you think things are difficult until you compare them to things that are very difficult. Mm-hmm. Like very difficult things. Like if you're going on a hike in the mountains and you're going to backpack in and camp out, and it's 14 miles in, you have a 70-pound backpack because you have all your food, you have your bedding, you have a tent, you have all this shit on your back, you and your friends, and you're walking 13, 14 miles in. Mm-hmm. That's fucking hard.
Yeah.
When you're 9,000 feet above sea level, you're like,
yeah,
that's real hard.
Yeah.
It's not comments on fucking Twitter.
Yeah.
That's not really hard.
Yeah.
That is easy to ignore. It's easy. Like you have the option to ignore it and life goes on.
Your brain can't even. Your brain's like, yo, I can't worry about it. Like you'll have a flash of it.
Yeah.
Be like, we can't fucking, dude. You got to breathe and you got to get or you're gonna perish.
Yeah, but you also got to do difficult shit. You do difficult shit to change what your watermark is. Like what's your mark of like normalcy. And if your ability to handle difficult situations and discomfort is at a very low level, you are going to be miserable forever. You've got to elevate your ability to withstand discomfort. So the things that are very discomfortable for most people, they aren't as bad for you. They aren't as bad for you. And if you can get there, it's a better place to be.
You just make yourself resilient by it's like throwing the medicine ball in your stomach, just fucking getting the fucking.
Yeah, you're getting like mental, like if you're doing like endurance work on a bike, like doing sprints on one of those air machines, you're not capable of thinking of anything else. You're barely surviving those workouts. You're like, fuck. There's these things called Tabata sprints. It's a great protocol for developing endurance. And you do a 20-second sprint followed by 10 seconds of rest. It's the shortest 10 seconds you'll ever experience in your life. Because then right after that's another 20 seconds.
Even I do high interval training for just running. You just sprint for a minute and then not for a minute. And you're like, boy, that was a pretty quick knot. That fucking slowdown was not. I think they fuck with the clocks a little bit on that one.
Time is relative. It's very relative.
So how do you deal with? How did you deal with the Spotify? What's that day like? The day of the boycotts and all that stuff. Because I haven't spoken. I don't know if you've spoken about it at all. But
it was. They had never experienced anything like that before, so it was interesting to see how they would handle it. They handled it really well, and again, like when I made that video, where the big one was like Neil Young and Joni Mitchell and. When I made that video, like one of the things I really wanted to get out there was a lot of the things they were saying were misinformation. Like that's a shit word. It's a shit term. We're talking about things that are proven to be true now.
Right.
And when I was talking about them, a lot of the things that I was talking about were already on the cover of Newsweek. Like that was the one that masks don't work. Or no, the cover of Newsweek was the lab leak hypothesis.
Right.
And then on CNN, they were saying cloth masks don't work. There's all things that I had read and talked to people about before. I'm like, you got to recognize like what you're calling disinformation 6 months from now could be just accepted fact.
Right.
And that's what we're seeing over and over and over again with this.